advanced lesson. So my advanced lesson, first here I'm going to cover cells, which I went over for the most part in the first uh, first tutorial there, part 1. But here I'm going to go over exactly what you're getting out of these cells. So the only defense cells that I typically worry about on repeaters is Iceborne. Again, that's for kind of casual builds, but the reason I prefer Iceborne over Parasitic is because Iceborne gives you the constant bonus. When you're playing repeaters, a lot of times you have to stop to do things like throw a buff, reload, and whatnot. And if you're playing Parasitic, by the time you do all that, you might only have a few seconds left on your life drain. So I just prefer Iceborne better for that reason. You could do Parasitic. There's really nothing stopping you. But other than that, there's really no use in taking pretty much anything else. For power cells, Discipline, obviously, if you're running a Discipline build, only ever run 1 Discipline. 2 is a waste. I know repeaters are great at critical hitting and all that stuff, but if you're running Discipline, you're not running Tenacious. We just don't have enough cells for it. Maybe if we get prismatic cells, we can do that more efficiently, but currently I think it's just a really bad idea to try to mix Discipline and Tenacious builds. So just don't do it. Just 1 Discipline cell. Overpower, triple S tier cell for repeaters. You should always be going for part breaks on repeaters, so they're going to be down a significant amount of time. And I know it says against staggered behemoths, but it also counts towards behemoths that are just on the ground at any time, whether it be from booping, staggering, knockdowns, interrupts, whatever. It counts. Trust me. Rage, of course, if you're running Discipline builds, and Tenacious, obviously, if you're running Tenacious builds. Now, Rage, you typically always want to run at +6, and Tenacious, you have to run at +6 in order for you to get the critical hit bonus. So always, always, always get that Tenacious 6 in if you're doing that. Now, for mobility here, as a repeater weapon, we are forced to take a mobility slot. It sucks. By the way, Phoenix Labs, did I mention give us prismatic cell slots? No, not 100 times in like every video? Okay. But yeah, give us prismatic slots, please. The good ones, in my opinion, there's only 3. Evasion. Technically, I think there's only 2. Evasion is great. Iframes are fantastic. 1 only gives you 21% more iframes, so it might extend it from 0.1 to 0.12 seconds, but it might help. But I strongly prefer Sprinter right now. Sprinter is fantastic. It's 10% more movement speed at all times, no matter what you're doing. So moving around, getting up close, getting back, it might give you that extra little inch that you need to get out of a repeater hit. Anything. Closing distance. I think I mentioned it in my last video, but not a lot of people like to think of movement speed as DPS, but movement speed is DPS. If an Abermain runs across the screen and starts to do fire breath, it takes him a few seconds to charge it up. If you have 10% more movement speed, you're getting there 10% faster, and you're essentially doing more DPS because you close the distance faster. So that does actually impact your DPS, especially against mobile behemoths. Swift gives you 15% movement speed, but only when your weapon is sheathed. So it is better at flying across the screen, for the example I just gave with to grab an Embermane real quick, but it doesn't help you with things like shooting and moving at the same time, trying to narrowly avoid attacks and stuff like that. So it's got ups and downs. It's a very small difference. It's only 5% more movement speed on the Swift cell, so I prefer Sprinter for that reason. But let's get on to technique cells here. Now, there's loads of good technique cells for repeaters, and we are definitely a technique-based weapon. Berserker's one of the best. Always run Berserker 3, never run Berserker 6. It's one of those cells where the bonus at rank 3 is better than the difference between rank 3 and 6. So I'll show you here, for example, real quick. It's actually on this weapon, that's convenient. Rank 3 is 2% damage, and then going from rank 3 to 6 is only an extra 1.5. So you're getting kind of gypped on that next cell. So as a weapon that has less cell slots, essentially, because we're forced to take a mobility, it's very important that you optimize your cells to the best that you can to optimize your damage there. Where were we? Cunning. Cunning, no-brainer. Cunning is fantastic for any weapon, especially if you're running a tenacious build. You need that damage bonus. The critical hit chance is also really nice, but the main reason you want that is for the critical hit damage bonus. Huge bonus. I think it's 30%. Always go +6 on Cunning. +3 is absolute trash. There is no reason to run +3. Ever. Don't do it. It's bad. I will whip you if I find you doing that. Predator, really, really good cell. Absolutely phenomenal for repeaters, since they are a weapon that you're typically not getting hit a lot on. Again, it's one of those cells where you would much rather have it on +6. The only reason I don't here is because I'm forced to take that mobility cell. I really wish I could take that mobility cell away and stick it into Pred. I really do. But I can't, because I hate Phoenix Labs for not giving us prismatic cells. It's like the third time I've mentioned that in the last like 30 minutes, I think, between my two videos. So Predator, yes, really good. And next up, we have Savagery is, of course, really good, but only if you have a Warpike friend in your team. Wild Frenzy, only take 1, because it's one of those cells where the first cell is significantly better than the +6. It's kind of the opposite. You can see rank 3 is 12.5%, and then you only gain an extra 7.5 from going from 3 to 6, which is like half as effective. It's trash. So only take 3, but the attack speed is important, so definitely try to take the 3 if you can. Then lastly, but definitely not leastly, we have our extremely good utility cells. Etheric Attunement, you always want percentage increase to lantern charge, not flat increase. Percentage is significantly better, just mathematically wise, especially for repeaters. You're going to generate lots of lantern power really quick using Etheric Attunement. Cascade is kind of meh on repeaters. You typically don't need the health, which is the green orbs. You typically don't need the stamina. You shouldn't ever need the stamina, because literally the only thing you need stamina for is rolling on repeaters. Unless you're running a repeater mounting build, which is not very good at all, so I wouldn't know why you'd want to do that. So the yellow ones are worthless. The red ones only apply for 3 to 5 attacks, depending on if you're doing +3 or +6. And as a weapon that does rapid, small amounts of damage, it's not good. Like, yeah, you could pick one up and then do your full bore or do your salvo, but I just think the overall, like, actually times that it kind of works out is not very good for the weapon, and typically you want to run other things for the weapon. Mainly being Conduit. Conduit 6 is what you need on all your repeater builds. They all need to have that. A lot of things people don't realize is that first and foremost, repeaters are a support weapon. Yes, you can make them do absolutely batshit crazy damage, but a lot of the damage that you do, you don't even see. Like when I'm playing, I'm helping my teammates out. Even on my DPS builds, like I'm running Conduit, I'm running Captain's Grip. So I might be doing mad damage on like Urska, for example. I was hitting over 2,300 damage a shot, just like going to town on Urska. And while I'm doing all of that bad shit damage, I'm also buffing my entire team's attack speed by 50%, which is bonkers. Like, I'm just massive damage boost to my team. Like, if nobody else has any attack speed modifiers, that's a 50% increase to the whole party. It's really good. Repeaters are just godlike. And because you're building Lantern Charge really quickly with repeaters usually anyway, that conduit buff should be up 100% of the time, no matter what kind of playstyle you have. You can even do some really cool stuff like if you're running full bore chamber and you get a head to tail shot, you can do Lantern, full bore chamber, and then as long as you hit it right, you should immediately have your Lantern fully charged with just one rank of etheric. Attunement. Yeah, the part increase one. I get the two mixed up sometimes. I wanted to check. And then you should be immediately able to pop it again. Like, you can just pop off Lantern holds like nuts with the weapon. So conduit should always be up. All these other ones are kind of trash. Zeal is pretty trash on the weapon for the most part. No matter what kind of build you're doing, so it's not super great. Lanterns I'm going to go over with. The good lanterns for repeaters here. Draskai, top tier for crit builds. You're going to use that for your tenacious builds and your whatever other kind of crit build you want, because you're going to pop that before you do your big attack or whatever it may be. Pangar is really good, especially if you're running Etheric Attunement, because Pangar does absolutely bonkers damage. You know, you're just dropping Pangars left and right. It's really good, especially on trials when you're, trying to maximize your DPS there. That's definitely top DPS for repeaters there, despite the fact that the instant does almost nothing for you. It's still really good DPS. What I would also consider doing for trials, though, is be the one to take Strike Zeal, because then the whole team is getting another attack speed boost. Although typically the whole team is already running Catalyst and the attack speed pots, so you're not getting a lot of attack speed increase comparatively, I guess I should say. It's only a small increase there. So like kind of work that out, maybe test it a little bit with your team, see what's going on there. But strongly suggest Pangar for trials there, and any build that's not a critical hit build. All right. Now, when you're playing with repeaters, you have what I like to call rotations. It's a fairly common term in the RPG world for like MMOs and junk. But the rotations change very little for the most part. You're typically going to do attack, you're going to empty your chamber, you're going to do all your little things, and you're going to reload. Now, when everything's going full scale, you can see I'm way back here. I don't need to empowered reload once my attack speed gets so high. I can sit back up here, I can empty 2 to 3 chambers depending on what's going on, and then I can come up and empowered reload. Now, while you're doing that, you have to make sure to be emptying your chamber here. Now, this is a marksman chamber build, so I am trying to get empowered reloads at 0, and that has to be really important for me to get my skills back up. So I'm going to do my rotation completely different as to opposed to a critical hit build. Now, when you're doing all this junk, you have to think about the kind of build you're doing. So let me here switch. I don't do the exact rotation I just did, because I did that all out of order. I was just trying to show specific things. But when you're doing tenacious build, you always want to make sure you're at 0 ammo, and then you shoot, and then reload. And you're gonna want to always try to get that empowered reload. You don't necessarily always need it, because you're going to have less frequent full bores, but they are going to be significantly stronger. Now, there might be a new meta here, because Trials has always been Marksman Chamber top tier for Trials, but because of the massively increased health, that might be shifting to Tenacious builds now. So I guess we'll wait for all the meta grinders to do all the math on that and figure out exactly what is working best. Because we have just massively increased health on the Trials Behemoth now. So much so that they increased the time from 3 minutes to 5 minutes for getting your marks for the week. And it's just crazy right now. But always try to make sure you're maximizing your rotations. So for this weapon, like I said, never do that. Never full bore at full ammo. Always empty down, full bore, reload, attack speed, go to town. If you're wearing headphones, try to listen for that lantern refillability, and then pop that. Hit your tap ability before you shoot. Just like try to get these things down in your head. After you do them 100 times, you'll just start to become muscle memory. You'll get it worked in. Just try to get used to using all your abilities as frequently as possible. That's really all I gotta say, because no matter what ability you're doing, by the time it's back up, you should be using it again. With the exception of if you're chasing something and maybe your full bore is just about ready, like let's say it's like 7/8 full and you're like, oh shit, I'm at 0 ammo, then you might want to wait a few seconds just to get that massive burst of damage off. But if it's only half full, like just reload and empty another clip. You know, you're just killing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you're wasting a whole clip trying to wait for a full bore chamber. And with that, we get into part break rotations. So when you're fighting behemoths, the most efficient way to fight behemoths is to realize that repeaters are a part break weapon. So you're always going to focus one part and try to remember it. Try to remember to be like, oh, I'm going after this, I'm going to pretend this is a cool shot. I'm going after the cool shot's front right arm. So then think about that, start on your rotation, go nuts. Like I'm doing a cross shot here, so I'm going to remember in my head, next time I go for a part break, it's going to be the front left arm, because I know I've already hit that with my full bore. So I'm going to do this, he's going to fall down, I'm going to get my overpower bonus, I'm going to quickly roll over here, I'm going to start to go to town on this other leg. And I'm going to go ham on that. And I'm going to angle my full bore to try to hit as much of his body as possible, but still hitting the next part that I'm trying to go towards. Then I'm going to, go ham on this part, and I'm going to break that part. He's going to go down, hopefully before he gets back up. Then I'm going to go over to the next behemoth. Bam, break that part. I'm just going crazy. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go all the way around the behemoth until all the parts are broken. And usually it's pretty easy to remember what you've broken and what you haven't. And anybody who's played this game and read about it knows that yellow means the part's not broken, and white means that you're doing core damage, and that part is already broken because you're not doing part damage to it. So if you shoot a part and you see white damage, move to a different part. This happens a lot when you're in team fights and you might not have noticed. Your buddy threw an axe at a part and did 40,000 damage, and now it's broken. And you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize that happened. So then you're like, oh, I just go to the next part. You want to always try to get as many part breaks as possible. That's going to optimize your damage the best it can go. The last thing I'm going to talk about here is Twin Suns. Twin Suns have big fans. I love talking shit about Twin Suns. Oh my god. I will tell you to never buy them. They're trash. They're a really fun weapon. I love playing them, but I don't play them because I feel like I'm doing trash damage with them, because that's just what happens. Yes, you can get really big numbers on them, and it's like, oh cool, I just did, like 150,000 damage to the behemoth on my, bomb explosions. But the whole rest of the time, you have to look at several other factors. Is that one, Twin Suns have 0 support ability, so you're not buffing your team. 2, they're a neutral weapon. You're not getting any kind of elemental bonus out of them. 3, they got no modularization to them. You can't optimize them in any kind of way. You're stuck with what you got. You have to do a crit build. 4, the most important thing about realizing that Twin Suns do trash damage is that the whole time you're applying sticky bombs, you're doing 0 DPS. So yes, you get a nice big cloud of bam, I did a whole bunch of damage, but you have this giant gap of you doing nothing, and it just murders your overall DPS. You can't do this anymore, but back when they used to have a grading system for hunts, and they'd be like, okay, we did. I did a group with 3 other gold crowns, and we all took the exact same weapons except me, and we fought the exact same behemoth, and we went in, and I used the internet's best build, the best critical hit build I could find for Twin Suns, and I did DPS the best I could. I'm over there, and I just big damage, big crits. At the end of the fight, I got a B. My overall grade was a B, and that's on a scale of like D is the lowest, and then it goes up to A, and then S, and then S plus, and then S plus plus. So B is pretty low, especially for running top tier stuff. Everything was maxed out. And then I switched over to my repeater build. I didn't even use an online meta build. I used my repeater build that I used, and I got an S plus. And that's you go down to S, you go down to A, and then you go down to B. So it was 3 grades lower than the damage that I did with Twin Suns. Now, if it was like 1 grade lower, you might be able to say like, oh, that was a little bit like user error, or maybe one of the other players performed a little bit better that time and was more efficient. But 3 grades difference is too big to ignore on the fact that you just can't make up for all of those things that kind of just like knock them down a peg. Now, talking to Phoenix Labs, I do wish that you made them better. I do wish that you made them modular so that you could maybe give them an elemental barrel or a legendary ability, or just turn the Twin Suns into their own individual parts. Like, hey, I don't want full bore chamber, I want sticky grenades. Or hey, I don't want the little I don't want captain's grip. I want the ability to have a second dodge that lets me counterattack, the little like dash dodge counterattack thing that Twin Suns has. That would be awesome. Give us that. It might not be optimal, but it'll make the weapons more fun. So with that, I hope you guys learned a little bit about optimization and how to improve your gameplay, especially with the whole round robin technique that really helps you increase your overall performance as a repeater player, and an understanding that you can do some really good damage with repeaters and still be a really good team support playing with them. Although I will go over one last thing real quick. I almost forgot to, the legendary barrels. That is not the legendary barrel menu. That's right here. Agris, I use this barrel more than anything because I do a lot of carries on Discord, or if I go into a group that I don't know, I'll bring them just in case I have to res people. It's also really good if you're going into a hunting ground under leveled. Like, oh, I'm 5 levels under, I want my maximum XP bonus. I'm going to bring this because I know I'm probably going to get one-tapped by something. So, you have an extra res every round. Great. Cryo Barrel, triple S tier, really good. It's that boop that repeaters are missing. The instant cryo effect that it usually applies is also top tier. Slows them down, lets you peg those round robin part breaks significantly easier if they're moving at half speed. Really. Oh, and also I think, was that this patch? I think they just buffed it so it does damage now, which is, we didn't need that, but cool, I guess. It does damage now. Dynamic Carbine, another really good weapon. Highly recommend it. It's great for booping really distantly. It's an instant interrupt. No, not interrupt. It's instant damage threshold knockdown. So, for example, when Koshek climbs up on his tree, you're supposed to do X amount of damage before he gets knocked down. If you're fast enough to pop this, it'll instantly knock him down. Really good for that. Otherwise, repeaters would totally be able to boop him at all, even with like a Saboteur Grip or Concussion Grenade. So it's really good for situations like that. Thrax Barrel, God tier. It's a boop on the way up. It's a boop on the way down. It's really good at closing distance on something that gets really far away. For example, if you're fighting Rezakiri and he's about to rage, if you pop this fast enough, you jump up in the air, the bubble doesn't hit you, you fly back down, you hit him, you're behind him, so none of the crap in front of him can hit you, and you can just go to town on him. Frickin' blasting his tail or whatever you want to do. Volcanic Barrel, garbage. Don't use it. You're going to do less damage in Volcanic Barrel form than you are with your actual repeaters. The only exception might be is if you're doing something like the Easter event where you need to kill Styxians. You're just jumping around, smashing Styxians all over the place. As opposed to like trying to shoot the little tiny little bastards with your repeaters. That's it. Do not recommend. When I do Frost Esca, I'd rather bring Dynamic Carbine to get shock procs. Like I just don't use it. Um, please let us Power Surge Standard Barrel Phoenix Labs. Please let us do that. It's really aggravating. Um, Having a 10 power weapon when you give us a mastery thing that's like do 40 million damage with neutral repeaters, and we can't even frickin' power surge the one neutral barrel we get. So we're just kind of stuck with that, unless you want to use, God forbid, Twin Suns. But all right, now I'm done for real this time. That's everything I had on my list here. Other than just learning behemoths. Learn when they do their attacks so that you can get a good empowered shot off. Learning how they orient themselves so you can make sure that those shots are lined up head to tail or tail to head, and you optimize your damage there. Make sure you know when behemoths take a second to breathe so you can get an empowered reload without hurting yourself. And you guys are on the way to being top tier, top 100, top 5, whatever have you, trial leaderboards players. Anybody who knows me from the Discord, I'm in there all the time. If you see me on there, same name, LastDarkHope, feel free to hop in, say hi, play a game, I don't care. And with that, I'm gonna end the video. So see you around, Slayers. By the way, you're my favorite Slayer. Don't tell anyone else. Yep, I probably lost like 10 followers for that.